Good morning, and thank you for joining us. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Improve NPS and CSAT while Reducing Costs with Interactive Messaging and Automation. I'm Alexander Michael, and I'll be your host and moderator. Today's program is designed to be interactive, so please participate in the QA session by asking questions at any time during the panel discussion. Just type your question into the Q&A text box in the left-hand side of your screen. And you can enlarge the slides at any time by clicking on the diagonal arrows located on the upper right side of the slide. The slides will advance automatically throughout the program, but if you are experiencing problems with this program, press F5 on your keyboard to refresh your screen or close and relaunch the program. And you can also visit our webinar help guide by clicking on the help widget on the top right, or simply submit a question using the Q&A interface. Today's program will also be available on demand within 24 hours and can be accessed by visiting www.frost.com/NPS and CSAT. I'll show you that address again before we wrap up. And please do share this program with your colleagues and anyone else who would be interested. We'll be live tweeting during today's webinar, and to follow the conversation, the Twitter handle is FS_events, as you can see here on the screen. Now, let me just walk you through today's agenda. First, we'll introduce our brilliant panel. Then I'll present my perspectives on today's topic, followed by a lively discussion with our panel, and finally we'll wrap up with a live audience Q&A. So again, don't forget to submit your questions in the Q&A text box. But before we get started, let's take a moment for introduction. So I'm Alexander Michael. I'm the Senior Director of Consulting at Frost & Sullivan and the Lead Analyst for Customer Experience Management. And I'd also like you to meet Ricky Ramon. Ricky, if you could just say a few words about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Alex. My name is Ricky Ramon. I work for TRACFONE Wireless, primarily focused on heading operations and automation. Been with the company for 22 years.
And Jeff Michaud.
Yes, thanks, Alex. Jeff Michaud, Head of Client Strategy for IMI in North America. Been with the company for about 15 years, and my day-to-day life across that time has been spent working with brands, figuring out how to deploy messaging in ways that will improve their customer experience and drive value for their business.
And Rami Riyad.
Hey, and I'm in charge of the future messaging team within IMI Mobile to help us explore new channels and partner with some of the technology providers of these channels to offer them to our clients.
And Dave Jennings.
Hi, Alex. Dave Jennings, VP of Strategic Solutions. I head up our pre-sales engineering group in North America. I've been with IMI for over 10 years, and my responsibility is to work with brands to improve customer experience through IMI's omni-channel digital communication technology.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And before we dive in, let's start with our first polling question. Which messaging channels are you currently using to communicate with your customers? And please check all that applies: RCS, Apple Business Chat, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, SMS, or none of the above. And please choose the radio button or buttons that best fit your answer. And we'll be taking a look at the polling results soon, so please stay with us. Now, when I started preparing for the webinar, I kind of had the ambition to not mention the C word at all. And I was going to say that everyone's volumes were almost back to normal levels and it was time to shake off COVID, right? But with talk of second waves and everything that's going on in the Senate and White House, it looks like we're headed for a very messy run-up to Christmas. So what do we do right now? Well, above all, we need to maintain a useful customer experience at all times. And when COVID first hit, I think most CX executives experienced a grace period of, approximately 2 months. Customers kind of relaxed expectations, and they were super patient, but that's over. Brands just cannot operate in crisis mode any longer, and there may not be another grace period. So it's not going to be acceptable in the future to be inadequately prepared. And automation and self-service applications will play a huge role in always maintaining the useful customer experience. So really, most CX practitioners recognize that the tectonic plates of CX delivery are shifting. Now, automate wherever possible, deliver the human touch whenever needed is how I like to describe kind of the new paradigm that's emerging. And I passionately believe it'll be good for everyone, including contact center agents. We need to embrace the complexity of customer behavior because customers pick channels and devices based on context, and we need to serve customers where they are right now. Frost & Sullivan expects customer interactions to increase 3.5 times until 2022, driven primarily by personalization. And having customers choose to spend time with us is actually a privilege because every natural touch point with a customer is a merchandising opportunity. Context is everything. And the better a relevant offering is timed to a customer need, the better the conversion rate. Now, just think about it. 3.5 times more interactions. Just think about managing 3.5 times more interactions through traditional channels. Well, it would be impossible, and customers would be loath to use them. But automation accomplishes multiple tasks tirelessly, quickly, and accurately. Automation increases efficiency and reduces costs. It frees up human agents for more complex, high-value, sensitive, and frankly, more interesting tasks that require emotional intelligence, reasoning, or judgment. And employees love that. So you get a big improvement in employee satisfaction as well. Security increases and your compliance risk decreases. And customers love it too because customers expect the option to self-serve because they're getting used to instant gratification and instant outcomes. I think you can say that speed is now table stakes. It is always an expectation. And in the past 6 months, we have witnessed a tremendous increase in enterprise adoption of automation. I think part of the reason is that CX executives have learned that they can no longer assure the useful customer experience through contingency planning alone. It's a bit like the implied and quite honestly arrogant presumption that we could foresee every eventuality and write a contingency plan for everything has just gone out the window. So the ability to pivot, to deal with whatever happens is now an essential quality. And the sense I'm getting is that organizations will be architecting resilience into their customer journeys, focusing on agility and flexibility at all levels, including systems. And the relationships with technology providers are going to be crucial. And maybe, just maybe, COVID has reversed the failure of previous years to force digital adoption on the servicing channel. The CX head of one of the largest banks in New York said to me last month, there's nothing like a 4-hour hold time to get people to download the mobile app to check their balance. And it's kind of a new take on the omni-channel approach. If traditional channels are knocked out, digital channels take over seamlessly. So if you look at what else is cooking in customer care right now, I think there are 2 phenomena that really stand out: effort and empathy. Now, I already said that speed was always an expectation, and low effort is also always an expectation because customers are not stupid. They know what good looks like, and they compare you to the champions of other industries. So expectations carry over. If Netflix can set up an account in 30 seconds, why does a bank need 3 days? that sort of thing. And what's empathy? Well, in a CX context, it's thinking ahead. It's showing that you care through the actions you take. It is so much more than saying you're sorry. Empathy is being more proactive and practical, ensuring customers' problems will not reoccur in the future. So you can say that the goals to increase empathy and reduce effort absolutely go hand in hand. And the idea is really grounded in the most basic customer satisfaction concept, but a spectacular way to rethink the old notion of call deflection is to adopt a proactive approach, not to deflect the next call, but to prevent it from coming in the first place. So regardless of channel, we must try to future-proof, if you will, customers' problems, anticipate questions they may have in the future, offer assistance now to prevent contact in the future. And I cannot emphasize enough how important messaging is in this context to avoid anxiety and reduce friction and effort. And when I talk about anxiety and friction, it's not me pretending to be millennial. It's about something as crude as revenue and growth. Online conversion, for example, is a fraction of in-store conversion. And in 2019, the online shopping cart abandonment rate was almost 70%, meaning businesses fail to convert upwards of $5 trillion, usually because of unnecessary anxiety-inducing friction. At Frost & Sullivan, we estimate that cart abandonment has actually increased even further during COVID. So it's a growing problem that is costing us trillions, literally. So ultimately, showing customers we care by interacting with them adequately and appropriately and keeping them informed is in everyone's interest, not least our shareholders. And Ricky, your 611 program, in a sense, puts into practice some of the things that I just talked about. Tell us about how it started and what the goals were.
Yes, thank you, Alex. And really hearing you talk about automation really puts a big smile in my face. I've been embarked on this automation journey for multiple years now at TRACFONE. And quite frankly, when we started this journey to figure out how do we improve our automation contribution, we were just over 50% of our engagements with our customers were through an automated type channel. Today, we are, just over 94% of all of our automation contribution at TRACFONE is done through some sort of automation channel. And one of the driving forces behind that increase has been the 61161 channel in which we've partnered with IMI to achieve. If you think about when this program started in 2015, we were trying to solve one particular use case. And the one use case was, how do we deliver customer usage via an automated channel? Prior to this, customers were calling our customer care organization in some cases multiple times in one day to understand what their usage was and what their balance was. And we went off and tried to solve that use case via an SMS platform that allowed a keyword-driven approach where a customer could text a keyword, as you see on the screen here, and we would then call a service in our back end that would, in essence, return back all the information related to the usage and the service that the customer was looking for. Well, that prevented the need for a customer to have to call our customer care, and they were able to self-service themselves in doing so. Year one, we did roughly 5 million 611 usage engagements with our customers through automation. And we quickly realized the power of that channel and started looking at ways to increase that. So we went from, over the last 5 years, we went from one keyword being usage And now we're 80 plus different keywords that allows customers to engage through self-service automation to not only get their usage, but to top up their service, find out what their voicemail instructions are, do meaningful updates to their phones to make sure that they've got the right settings to get data working. And that's just to name a few. This year, we're going to do over 110 million engagements through the 60161 channel. And if you think about what that means, not only from a speed to request of what the customers are asking for, right? Because they no longer have to call customer care, potentially wait on hold to get a customer care agent to serve those needs, right? They could do that at the comfort of using their phone and really self-serving their needs when they want and how they want, right? And on top of that, the cost saving that it introduces to the business is astronomical, right? The most expensive channel that all companies have is really the agent customer support channel, right? So if you can deflect those calls and drive automation and at the same time to deliver a better customer experience, it's a huge win for the bottom line and a huge win for the customer, right? If you think about the natural evolution of kind of what we've done to 61611 and start thinking about what that means in an RCS ecosystem, right? It really takes it even to the next level where now you have a richer experience to deliver the same content. You can give more content based upon certain criteria where if the customer is asking for their usage, you may also want to give them options if they're running low on their usage and give them options to say, you may want to consider buying more so that you don't have any lapse of service. So as we start evolving into RCS and start thinking about the extra automation opportunities that this brings to not only continue to increase the customer experience, increase revenue and reduce costs, I mean, the opportunities are endless when you start thinking about really what RCS can deliver on top of the 60161 platform we've already delivered to our subscribers.
Okay, thank you, Ricky. I think it's just amazing what you've been able to achieve. And I think now is a good time for our second polling question. And it is, when you think about implementing automation into your customer journeys, which functional areas or use cases do you see having the most benefit? Contact center call deflection, marketing for offers and promotions, operations for transactional messaging such as BOPIS, appointment reminders, etc. And again, choose the radio button or buttons that best fit your answer. And Rami, if I could bring you in now, given what we've heard, that the types of programs Ricky was talking about, how are communication channels evolving to support these types of programs?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And I think what we're seeing in the market and what we're seeing from different channels is that the emergence of these new channels that are outside the traditional carrier channels like RCS, MMS, and SMS is that they're empowering the users and the brands to communicate more effectively and actually meet the user where they are. If you're searching for your brand or your location that you want to go to via your Maps application, then why not chat with the brand or the enterprise or the agent that's there to support you rather than picking up the phone and waiting in line for an IVR. Everything is coming to the user where they are. It's more engaging. It allows more interaction between the enterprise and the consumer on the different channels that are available. So, and covers a broad spectrum from some of the over-the-top applications like Facebook Messenger, Twitter, WhatsApp, or to more native to your device like an Apple Business Chat, an RCS experience, or Google Business Messages where it integrates with your Maps application. The experience is now a lot richer. It's channel aware, so that there are different experiences delivered based on the channel capabilities. And having that variety of channels also brings a challenge to the enterprise on managing the different experiences between the channels and managing the communication effectively. And if we take a look at some of these channels, you'll see that each one of them has some unique characteristics that define them. So RCS can be initiated by the customer or can be initiated by the business. But if you take a look at Apple Business Chat, it's more initiated by the customer where the user is reaching out for the enterprise. Same applies to Google Messages. A lot of these channels offer native payment support, but we also support some custom third-party solutions that allow us to process payments on the other channels where native payment may be coming at a later date to support that in channel. The common theme that we're seeing across the channels is the richness and the interactiveness of the channel. Each channel is allowing the user to respond back, to engage, talk, and even move the call to a live agent if the customer is unable to fulfill their request or feels that they need more support. And that's basically more of a last resort type of where the live agent is there. We don't want the customer to feel trapped in a channel, and then there's an option to discuss more with a live agent. Some of these features also offer new avenues that were not available before. So having delivery and read receipts, it actually helps us measure better engagement. So when we send out a message to the user, has it actually been delivered to their device? Did the user read the message, and did they engage or choose not to engage based on that? So it offers also an enhanced level of reporting and understanding the user behavior and effectively communicating better with the user. Some of the examples I would say for each of these channels, and if we look at RCS, it's more of a marketing outbound communication where you're reaching out to your consumer with new offers, new promotions, or even customer service, so that when the user initiates the conversation with you through RCS, you're able to deliver more features. And we've seen a lot of clients of ours use this channel in more of a upsell opportunity and more of a loyalty program engagement. With Apple Business Chat, it's more oriented towards customer service and the user reaching out because they want something from the enterprise or the brand where they're trying to communicate, whether via the different entry points. Same thing for Google Business Messages. It's an entry point where the users are searching for a physical location or searching the web or on the website, and they want to chat with the enterprise. Then that option becomes available. So I see Apple Business Chat more of a customer service. Google Business Messages, I would say more of a customer service and a call deflection. And both Apple Business Chat and Google Business Messages offer an entry point for enterprises that have physical locations or have an actual presence where the user is searching for something and then they find the result. WhatsApp, we see that relevant in markets where there's a very high WhatsApp penetration and everybody's using it. Therefore, it makes sense for some of the brands to use that as a channel to engage with their customers when some of the other channels are not available. And Facebook Messenger also, I would say the same thing would apply to them, that they're available for brands and enterprises that want to engage more on a social media platform rather than an operator or a device-specific platform that may be available.
Okay, thanks, Rami. That was a great overview. Jeff, let me go to you now. How have you seen other clients refocus their efforts on self-service and automation the last couple of months?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So what we're seeing and what we've seen has been an accelerated and sustained investment in the people, process, and technologies needed to support digital communications across the entire customer journey. And we kind of bucketed those into three areas that you see here. Really all in an effort to support an acceleration in digital transformation. And if you think back to 2019, feels like a long time ago, wasn't a long time ago, most businesses had digital communication journeys. They had digital transformation on their roadmaps at some level of maturity, some level of priority, but they all had them in their plans. And that changed very quickly, clearly. And suddenly these businesses realized that the digital first world that we always talked about every day was here. And fast forward to today, and all of the same businesses understand this has to be our top priority because this digital first experience world is here to stay. And so, it takes something like a simple online notification, order notification via SMS, right? An experience is very common. That is very rapidly expanded into an end-to-end customer journey around that same order to create that, contactless journey. Everything from that order confirmation to order status notification to BOPUS ready notification to curbside pickup communications. And, we're seeing a general expansion and a very rapid expansion and an increase in priority in delivering those types of experiences almost across the board. We're also seeing the rapid nature and of the rollouts of these types of programs and experiences does lead to some challenges and real challenges. So you take that curbside pickup experience that I just kind of alluded to here, and that created real challenges for store operations, for example. Suddenly, store operations, and that was most likely at a lower staff level, given the lack of physical retail visits. Suddenly, we're looking outside their restaurants or stores and had a parking lot full of customers who had made an online order and had an expectation that when they pulled up and parked, their order was going to be brought out to their car almost immediately, and they were on their way home. And from a store ops level, suddenly the store ops realizes where is this customer parked? Who is going to take the order out? They have a massive influx of calls into their stores from the customers wondering where their order is or telling them where they're parked. Just a series of challenges that I think ultimately took, for a lot of businesses, an experience that was supposed to enhance the customer journey, increase their satisfaction. And we've seen quite a few cases where the challenges that were unexpected due to the rapid deployment created more of a negative customer experience. And that resulted often in more calls into the stores, more calls into call centers, which is the last thing businesses want today, and ultimately some lower CSAT scores. So, but I think what we're seeing as a result of the learnings over the last, several months is we need to drive more automation into an experience like curbside pickup, more automation around the messaging that we deliver so that the customers communicate to appropriately, and actually creating more interactive chat-like experiences. So when a customer pulls up, they're chatting with the in-store associate versus making a phone call into that. And it's very interesting watching a call deflection shift from contact center really only down to a store level because of the impact it makes on store operations and customer experience.
So, Jeff, you said CSAT, and maybe Dave would like to comment as well afterwards. But have you seen tactics such as call deflection enhanced that have improved both customer satisfaction and agent satisfaction?
Yeah, certainly. I think, and I'll let Dave comment from an agent satisfaction. But I've seen, and I can think of a handful of clients of ours who have implemented chat experiences and call deflection experiences of a variety of kinds, present company included, Ricky and TRACFONE, that has certainly improved customer satisfaction scores, NPS. I mean, and businesses have to adapt because of that customer experience being, I don't want to use the word seamless, but seamless and an improved customer experience, not a frustrating one, is very important.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And I think I'd like to add to that. First off, I think by saying, voice is still critical today, and we should use the phone for emotive and complex queries. But that actually means I think we should start measuring the success of these channels we're talking about by seeing an impact on average call handling time increasing. because our call center agents should be doing better and more human work, as Alex alluded to kind of earlier on in his intro. I think how you handle your customers should be based on their intention state. So are they in crisis mode, like they often are currently, or are they in a positive or a neutral state, i.e. kind of completing a task versus fixing a problem? And I think considering, burgeoning call volumes are impacting an already overstretched workforce, especially around these times, and not to mention all the associated costs that Ricky alluded to earlier, I think by directing inbound calls to digital messaging channels, we can start to provide a much-needed respite for both our customers and our contact center teams. And so we found when customers do use digital channels, they're often looking to resolve more of the mundane tasks that kind of take seconds and don't really need to go into a call center at all. And these can and should already be automated. So offering the customers an option to engage on alternative channels, their preferred channels, it gives them the flexibility to resolve issues in self-serve mode. And one example, Jeff alluded to a couple there, but we're working with a retailer who's focusing on IVR, call deflection into messaging channels, for journeys such as order status updates, cancelling orders, returning orders, amongst a number of simple other customer requests. And these are great examples because the user has a clear end game of what they want to achieve. They have the information and to be able to complete this interaction in self-serve. Therefore, why not create a seamless kind of customer journey that has a clear and structured path over these new channels with little concern that the user it might fall out of it. But I think, as Rami alluded to at the top, we can, if they do, handle that customer in a digital chat channel, which is still more efficient than voice, and then connecting them with an agent full of the context of the conversation they've already had, which again will shave time off that customer contact center time. And I think that also segues into a demo we've prepared around customers resolving issues in self-serve mode, where traditionally they may have called in.
Let's walk through an example of how Apple Business Chat can elevate your customer experience in the context of booking an in-home appointment service, which incorporates some of the channel's great native capabilities, such as Apple Pay. We start with a customer journey triggered by an inbound message. We then reply with an automated response before taking the customer through a two-factor authentication workflow using SMS to identify who they are. Not only is this a great way to store the person's Apple Business Chat opaque ID against our customer record in the CRM for future use, but we can also begin to use previous engagement context to personalize the experience and ensure it's more relevant. Once we've successfully validated the customer and authenticated them, we can then leverage that context from Salesforce to ask about a particular product or service, becoming more contextual. We begin using simple keyword responses to clarify the customer's interest before starting to bring in rich images into this channel. And then native ABC features such as list pickers to conveniently display the options available to the customer and simply let them tap on their preferred option. Following this, we want to begin to schedule the appointment. And as we know, customers do not always respond how we want them to. So to reduce the number of customers dropping out of flows at this juncture and ensure a higher containment rate within the automated flow, we use basic date, time, NLP detection to understand the customer's response. And then we can structure it into a format that Salesforce requires it to be. This then allows us to return the available time slots from Salesforce into an easy to select format, native to Apple again, before returning that into Salesforce to confirm the schedule of the appointment. In addition to this, we want to make it easy for our customer to pay and reduce the cost to serve in chasing them for further payment down the line. So we introduce Apple Pay to allow a two-click secure payment over Face ID recognition to complete a great customer journey.
Dave, that's a great experience. And you showed one channel, Apple Business Chat. How would you deploy these types of journeys across multiple channels?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Alex, and something our clients and customers often ask and discuss with us. So I'll hit on two things briefly. So something I think we'll call omni-channel aware experiences. Channel agnostic implies one size fits all, and I think Rami has quite clearly depicted that Facebook, Apple, and Google have not designed these experiences to be complementary or in any way synchronized with one another. They are separate channels and in some ways to be treated as such. There's no one-size-fits-all campaign or silver bullet of how to use these together within your omni-channel strategy. I think we all wish there were. But what that means effectively is you need to work with a vendor or partner who not only understands their differences, but also understands their similarities, such as areas where we can find synergies, entry points to these channels that overlap. And as the tools, you need a vendor who has the tools to deliver the rich experiences across a unified communications platform to ensure you build once and then propagate across all the channels. What I mean by this is reusing the same customer journeys as you kind of saw in the example, or flows or integrations you've already built where possible, and whilst also being aware, when I say omnichannel aware of the differences and the channel's own capabilities and UX design. So serving responses on Apple Business Chat using list pickers, but Google you might use suggested replies, Facebook Messenger you might use a carousel, and WhatsApp you might use keyword responses, and so on. So this is especially pertinent where chatbots are concerned. And it brings me on to the kind of the second point to this, which is automation. Now, when opening up these new channels, I think you have to automate to standstill. When I mention automate to standstill, what I mean is the inclusion of chatbots, RPA tools perhaps, into these channels are a great way of creating two-way conversational experiences. And repurposing these existing automations your business has already invested in can save significant amount of time and can prevent unnecessary additional contacts into the contact center by involving new channels themselves.
Thanks, Dave. Automate to standstill is a fascinating concept, isn't it? Jeff, if I could go back to you, please. How do you incorporate chatbots into conversational experiences?
Yeah, this is Dave mentioned this is another topic that we discuss a lot with our clients, and it's almost a where do we start, how do we do it? I think there's two key pieces of advice from our experiences. One is for a business to start with what you have. Start with the content, the program. Start with what you've built. One of the first people I ever worked with in deploying RCS programs back in 2017. He was asked at a trade show, what is it you like about RCS? And I thought his answer was terrific. He said, I love RCS because I don't have to build anything new. Right? My business it has already invested tens and hundreds of $millions in back-end systems and technologies and websites and apps. And with RCS, I don't have to build anything new there. I can leverage all of that functionality within those systems to deliver a rich in-app or web-like experience in the messaging channel that my clients or customers live in every day. And to be able to combine the power of digital messaging and digital engagement with the ubiquity and everyday use of messaging is a very, very powerful thing for our business. And I just thought that hit a lot of points along the way. And so, he really hit at the heart of start with what you have. In this Warby Parker example on screen is a great example of starting with what you have. Warby has a really slick little customer quiz to figure out what sunglasses or glasses are best for your face and you like the most. We simply took that experience and we extended it out to the RCS channel and created a nice little tap through conversational quiz that's starting with what they have and not building too much. And we're learning a lot about that. And so that's the most important, I think, thing in starting conversational chatbots. I think the second thing is to follow your customers' existing behaviors. And that we've said the term meet your customer where they are. And what does that mean? It means they have everyday behaviors that you know about. And Google Business Messages hit this square right here in this example, where taking an everyday search experience that we all do several times a day probably, and incorporating a chat button. So when the customer looks down at an interface that they look down at every day and they see a chat button, they're able to interact in a very rich way with a live agent or a bot experience. And it does two things, I think. One, it gives your customer that customer experience they're looking for, right? They don't want to make calls in the store. They'd like to chat. People like to text. And second, it reduces the amount of calls into the stores. Most business, over half of their calls driven into their stores come from search. Some as high as 80% of the calls that go into stores come from search. And so they're really a two-way benefit here, but follow your customers' behavior would be the real second most important thing that I think I would, what we tell our customers and clients and market.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Now, what I'd like to do now is a quick speed round of kind of quick fire answers from all participants. And Dave, I'll go to you first, and then everyone else, please join in. What trends are you seeing in the market at the moment, other than what we've already talked about?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So I think you mentioned this at the top, and it couldn't be more true, but the best way to reduce call volumes is to stop the customer from needing to get in touch in the first place, right? So proactive communications is fundamental, and is probably one of the key trends that we're seeing at the minute. Preempting, preparing for customer service scenarios in line with the nature of your business is the first step towards what we would call proactive call deflection. So communicating issues or delays to customers is going to reduce the likelihood of disgruntled customers calling in. A lot of times people get in touch because of something you've forgotten to tell them. You make them anxious. So, meeting them at their moment of uncertainty is crucial. And a couple of quick examples of a telecom or utilities company could see high volumes to end of their billing cycle, whereas a retailer might see peaks during holiday season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, around parcel deliveries, flight delays, cancellations in the airline industry. These are critical moments where, you need to meet your customers at that moment of uncertainty.
Yeah, I take a little bit more of a macro view here and go back to what I mentioned earlier, which was this incredible acceleration and investment in prioritization of digital experiences, automation. It's really, if you're a business out there who isn't thinking about the world in terms of customer experience first and digital first, you should start thinking about it today. We all know that customer experience is how you drive loyalty. It's how you drive lifetime value. It's how you keep your customers, not your competitors. And so I would say that the investment that's being made across verticals has been a real trend that's growing.
I think also on that is that we're seeing more entry points show up, and the aim of that is to get brands closer to consumers. We're seeing more entry points in the market show up to shorten that distance where consumers are talking to their brands when they want, the way they choose, and getting the information more effectively and quickly.
Yeah, I would end it with, if you think about kind of the shift in how people want to interact, consumers want to interact, is really no different than the way we want to interact. I mean, I can tell you that I can't remember the last phone call conversation that I had with my own kids. You might as well can remove the call button from their phone, and they will not lose a beat, right? And that's exactly the way consumer wants to interact with the companies they're engaged with, right? You got to give them options to engage in the way they want to engage. And quite frankly, they don't want to talk to you anymore. They want to chat with you. They want to engage through other means that doesn't require picking up the phone and actually talking to a live person.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, in terms of channel orchestration and automation, who does this well today, and why do you think they do it well? Maybe Jeff, you could start us off.
Yeah, sure. I'd say, well, in addition to our friends here at TRACFONE, who clearly they're onto something, we'll say, from an automation perspective, but doing it pretty well. Two other businesses come to mind. One is Best Buy. They've really taken, I think, a leadership position in creating a buy online pick up in store and then curbside pickup experience automated, and it's it's a great experience. I really enjoy it. Walgreens would be another. Walgreens has a really fantastic automated program around their pharmacy notifications and refill program. It's a spectacular experience, and it's really simple. I think that's part of what makes it so great.
Jeff, and to add on to that, I think we're seeing also some of the customers we work with, or partners we work with in Europe, where operators are using these channels as well for upsell opportunities, introducing new products in the market. And one of our customers was talking about how they tweaked an RCS experience that they sent out, and just by changing the experience slightly, they were able to optimize it in a way that the 5% that got the RCS experience generated almost 20% of the sale of the upgraded device that they were promoting for that, using that channel. And we're seeing operators across US, Canada, UK, Spain, and Brazil leverage these new channels to introduce new products, whether it's upsell, customer service, marketing, and it's generating a ton of engagement from their consumers.
I was going to say, Rami, I'd argue they have the unfair advantage of working with you for several years on figuring RCS out.
Yeah, it's RCS is a big driver for a lot of the operator partners that we're working with.
I was going to add, regarding Apple Business Chat, I think a slightly different way of looking at it, but TD Ameritrade, early adopter, they use kind of some of the chatbot experiences that we discussed here very well. But one thing I love what they did is they actually solved a business problem by using, a native feature of Apple, which is Apple Pay. And, to fund brokerage accounts, investors have to wait several days for funds to be verified or sent via wire transfer, and it was a real pain point. It caused customers headaches, and by using Apple Pay, they actually, not only do they improve the customer experience by introducing it, but they also managed to deflect, a number of inbound customer queries. So I love that for the sake of, you're solving another problem that was apparently, a big pain point for a customer by using one of these new channels that you couldn't have done otherwise.
Excellent. Now, you have to start somewhere. So what are your best tips, your best practices, your best advice to get started? Rami, maybe I'll go back to you.
Yeah, I think one of the key tips and to pass out is start. If you're looking for the stars to line up and everything to be there for the perfect experience, I think the key thing is start putting something out there, try the new channels, try engaging with your consumers differently on the channels that they're available on. And the second key thing is that we've noticed tapping is always better than typing. Tapping a yes is even easier than typing a yes. So give the users your power to engage with you through an easy, intuitive way, through tapping their way through a conversation.
Yeah, I would say, and kind of to mirror what Rami said, is, pick a use case, right? I guarantee that everyone has a low-hanging fruit that they can go after and really pick the channel that you want to go after, whether it be RCS, whether it be SMS, whether it be Apple Business, and implement it, right? And I think what you're gonna see is that, one is you're gonna learn a lot from the way customers want to interact, right? You're gonna be able to make the necessary pivots in order to continue to drive the customer engagement. And then you're gonna have the opportunity to really start expanding on that portfolio, right? So pick a use case, learn from it, expand, and then at the point where, right, you want to continue to expand out to other platforms, then you've already built plumbing. You've already built the proper plumbing, right? Because one of the things that you'll learn is that a lot of the plumbing required can be shared across these different platforms. So pick a platform, pick a use case, go, and then expand later.
Yeah, similar point to that, actually. I think treating these experiences as part of your existing channel mix to ensure, you're actually also measuring success, right? You're not just taking them as innovation for innovation's sake and setting yourself up to fail. I think as well, and to Ricky's point, to better facilitate this, leverage existing automation. When you introduce these channels, ensure you're delivering a consistent experience across them all. Keep them as part of your, consider them as part of your omni-channel communication strategy. Don't try and execute them in silos.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Dave. I'll go back to what Ricky said about, pick a use case, but really, you can keep it simple. You don't have to. Your first deployment doesn't have to be a moonshot. I mean, you look at what TRACFONE did, and quite frankly, a lot of early innovators did in the automation space with messaging. They've been leveraging SMS, which is a very simple, widespread technology to drive tremendous results in their business. And so, yeah, keep it simple, pick a use case, and don't feel like you need to have a moonshot technology to deploy.
And I guess, Jeff, keep it simple. You're also kind of saying what you do decide to do it well, right?
Yeah. I remember an old Bank of America commercial where they said they didn't get well at processing, 10 million checks a day. They got excellent and got perfect at doing it once. And then they did it 10 million times a day. And I think that's certainly a great piece of advice there.
Okay, thanks everyone. Now it's time for our third and final polling question. And which messaging channels are you not using today that you are more likely to adapt in the future? And again, check all that applies: RCS, Apple Business Chat, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, SMS, or none of the above. Choose the radio button or buttons that best fit your answer, and we'll be reviewing the polling results next. So do stay with us for that, and don't forget to submit your questions in the Q&A text box. And the questions have been coming in, and it's great to see the audience has been commenting again, which has been fun. But why don't we take a look at the results from the first poll? So which messaging channels are you currently using to communicate with your customers? Now, roughly half say SMS. That doesn't surprise me. But Jeff, then we've got over a third saying none of the above. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, excuse me, it really does. Especially in today's environment with the ubiquitous nature of messaging, how long it's been around. I would highly encourage the folks who chose none of the above to look quite immediately at deploying messaging strategies into their customer experiences.
And then we have polling question number 2. When you think about implementing automation into your customer journeys, which functional area or use case do you see having the most benefit? Dave, we've got over 70% saying contact center call deflection, which I suppose doesn't surprise anyone. But what's your reaction?
Yeah, similar to you, Alex. I think that's what we expect given the type of audience for this webinar. And I think the obvious cost savings that can be demonstrated, and obviously NPS and CX improvement from doing that. I guess what I would say is, we mentioned we're seeing a kind of a growing presence in that transactional space, especially since COVID and the shift to digital. We mentioned kind of proactive messaging. So I do expect to see greater adoption in that area over time. And then from a marketing perspective, when you look at RCS, which is predominantly used for marketing, I think we're seeing marketeers blurring lines between CX and operational messaging. I think they're moving away from kind of batching and scheduling to automating more. So again, I think there's definitely an opportunity there too.
Okay, and then we have polling question number 3, which was similar to number 1, except it's which channels you're not using are more likely to adapt in the near future. And Rami, it looks like you've sold RCS really well. So we've got over half of the audience picking RCS as something that they would adapt in the near future. But then followed closely by Apple Business Chat. How do you feel about that?
I actually feel really good about these numbers and happy to see that RCS and Apple Business Chat are growing in terms of user adoption. So definitely happy to help anyone with looking to adopt these channels and see how we can make this a more effective channel for all consumers, regardless if it's Apple or RCS Android-based messaging.
Okay, that's brilliant. So why don't we get started on the questions that we've received from the audience? And Ricky, the first question that came in was for you, and it came in while you were describing your 611 use case. So what type of internal challenges did you encounter when starting your automation journey?
Yeah, our biggest challenge really took place when we created the 61601 automation opportunity, as internal departments and channel owners were really trying to guard and maintain traffic in their respective channels. You know, it was really apparent that 61601 could cannibalize our channel engagement and quickly become our customers' preferred method of engagement. Therefore, getting the initial internal buy-in was difficult. It really wasn't until we took a more customer-centric mindset with huge focus on customer experience across the enterprise that spurred the growth of the 61601 channel from 5 million customer engagements in year one to over 110 million engagements in just 5 short years. So my advice is make sure you have internal alignment on what the strategy is and really what you want to achieve, and that'll certainly make the process a lot easier moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Ricky. Then we have a question. Do you recommend build, buy, or partner for these types of technology programs? Dave, maybe that's a question for you.
Yeah, sure. And I think I'll say a slightly different answer, which is configure. So what I mean by this is, you know, omni-channel ecosystem is pretty complex, so you do need a partner to do it. You can't do it by yourself. A lot of gateways to manage. You've got to be registered with the messaging partners, Facebook, Google, Apple. You've got to register numbers, template approval, use cases, etc. You know, we also need a partner who understands the capabilities of each channel and can provide you that toolkit that we've been looking at to build these channel-aware experiences. And then also stay on top of latest advancements and innovations. But if I kind of expand into what I mean by configure, I would say that you also want to be able to connect your own APIs, integrate new capabilities or channels into your existing infrastructure, applications, and kind of communications environment. Hence why I think configure is the best approach. You know, buy a toolkit with the building blocks in place, low code, no code environment to be able to build it yourself. And that's the approach we've taken with our IMI Connect platform.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Now, unfortunately, there were some questions that we were not able to answer because we're running out of time, but great questions from our audience, and we will follow up with everyone asking a question we couldn't get to later. But before we go, IMI Mobile, who was a big part of today's webinar, would be interested in keeping the conversation going with you all, and I would, of course, encourage that. So in an effort to do so, IMI Mobile has shared different options for you to take advantage of, and they are schedule a trial, schedule a demo, receive a white paper on call deflection, or schedule a fit assessment workshop to help develop an automation journey roadmap. And I can see the answers coming into that, which is great. So thank you very much for that. And someone from IMI Mobile will follow up with you regarding your selection. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is unfortunately all we have time for during today's program. And if you missed any part of this webinar, or if you want to share it with others, an on-demand version will be available at www.frost.com/NPS and CSAT. Thanks again for everyone's participation. It was great to have you with us. Thank you.